Back on HQ Post Round, where the top 30 in the FedEx Cup standings are on to the final week of the season. To the victor go the spoils, and some spoils are they. Winner will take $10 million at the Tour Championship as Scottie Scheffler looks to go back-to-back, a winner a year ago. The price for showing up? 30th place will take $355,000. Back in the mix with Rick Gehman and Patrick McDonald here to dive into all that awaits at Eastlake. And it's a different Eastlake awaiting, Patrick. Some sweeping renovations over the last 12 months or so. Take me through what we can expect to see relative to what we've seen in years past at Eastlake.
Yeah, we saw Andrew Green and his team get in there and restore the property last year. Andrew Green obviously had his hands on Oak Hill as well, the 2023 PGA Championship venue. But we saw a lot of guys take advantage of perhaps some easier conditions, which you don't typically see in the first year of a restoration. You think the greens are a bit more firmer. The grass hasn't really settled yet. But Eastlake should be exactly where the tour and the club wants it heading into this week. Like you mentioned, restoring some of those greens, a bit sharper edges around those, some new bunkers as well. And so this is really a pure Donald Ross design, I would say. But if you look at the leaderboard from last year, they're all tee to green menaces, right, Rick? You have Scheffler, you have Morikawa, Thigala when he was at the top of his game as well. And so I'm interested to see what the PGA Tour kind of does with the setup perspective, given that the staggered strokes are no longer a thing. Will they ramp it up? Will they try to make it easier? Will they change tee boxes that we haven't seen before? And so that's the one thing I'm really keen on heading into this week.
Probably all of the above, Patrick. Yeah, so I think there's a two-step process here. There's the renovation from last year, and then there is the setup for next week. And from everything I understand from the advanced info we're getting, it's going to be tough. It should be tough. The players are asking for it to be tough. Removing the staggered start hurts the top players in the world. The best way to help the top players in the world and give that advantage back a little bit is to make this very difficult. The rough will be about an inch longer than it has been in previous years. It's back to being a par 70. Not that that matters, but scores relative to par will likely be worse. And then there are going to be some more pinnable locations on those new greens that we did not see even last year. So I expect that Eastlake will play true to what the tour and what the club wants it to play, but this in theory should be the most difficult version of Eastlake that we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, a place we go for this week each and every year. It's going to be nice to sprinkle in some nuance and give us something new to look at Eastlake. You allude to the removal of the staggered start. It was a decision made in the midst of this season. Conspicuous or not, we all sat here and said, great, we don't want to see starting strokes. It's hard to watch. It's hard to follow throughout the week. But now I'm sitting here after Scottie Scheffler wins the BMW, his 5th win of the season, saying, this guy deserves something. Rick, do you feel like we are headed in the right direction in terms of a formatting for this Tour Championship? And how do you think it affects play this week?
This is a tiny step in the right direction. It is nowhere near the solution that we are looking for. The Tour is playing with fire here, right? I mean, these are 30 players over 4 rounds, 30 of the best players. Anybody could win this. Like, we see guys at 50 to 1, 100 to 1 win golf tournaments all the time. And this is an event where every week, every time they go in and out of commercial, it's the season-long race for the FedEx Cup. That's what this is. This is the season-long conclusion. If Scottie Scheffler wins, ideal. Rory McIlroy wins, that's fine. Even Sepp Straka, even Justin Thomas, they would be worthy victors. I don't know. What happens if Kurt Kitayama wins your FedEx Cup? What happens if Jacob Bridgman?
We're saying names? Can I borrow from Scottie? We're saying names now, Rick Gehman?
Kurt cannot win. I don't even think he's in it, but you get my point, right? Like, yeah, like
Nick
Jacob
Taylor,
Bridgman
let's say.
winning it. Nick Taylor, like that would just be like great for those guys. I'd be happy for them, but I don't think that is representative of what you want the FedEx Cup winner to be. You want to be the guy who had the best season. So, yeah, they're in a tough spot. I think they're playing with fire this year, and the tour is just begging for Scottie Scheffler to win this golf tournament.
I'm glad you brought up Bridgman, Rick, because I think we all know this is a bridge year when it comes to the FedEx Cup playoffs finale. I know. Thank you very much. I'm here all weekend, folks. But look, I think the tour and the PGA Tour's new CEO, Brian Rolap, this has to be high on the priority list when his regime kind of gets underway. How is he going to make this the quote-unquote Super Bowl that people have said in the past that this event should be? And I think there's a lot of different avenues that they could go. It was the players, reportedly, who didn't want the match play. The TV partners were behind it. The club was behind it, but the players didn't want that the season-long finale to be decided by match play. So it's very interesting to me what they're going to do moving forward. Could they adopt the Rick Gehman method, potentially, going from top 70 to top 50 to top 30 and starting from zero at the onset of the FedEx Cup playoffs? I think they should get maybe a little weird with it, think outside the box with it, because like Rick mentioned, what happens if Jacob Bridgman does win this year? His name's going to be on that trophy alongside Tiger's, alongside Rory's, alongside Scottie's. And I don't think many people watching on Sunday really know much about that kid. Not to throw him under the bus or anything. He's just, kind of an easy target right now.
Scottie Scheffler has lost the Tour Championship when starting at the top of the staggered start. He's won the Tour Championship when starting at the top of the staggered start. We'll see if he can just win another golf tournament this week. He has gone back-to-back, Craig Ranch to the PGA Championship. He'll try to do it again, BMW to Atlanta. It feels like every week, Patrick, he's starting with strokes in hand with how much better, how much more sound he is in these types of moments. But the nature of the beast being there's $10 million at the finish line, do you think we just see some free-wielding, rip the governor off type golf from this entire field this week?
I would think so. I think from those who kind of snuck in and realized, like, hey, I had a great year. I haven't really had my best stuff. I look at someone like Sung J M in particular, who I think has bled strokes to the field on approach in all 300 of his starts on the PGA Tour this season, but still snuck inside the top 30. Like a Jacob Bridgman, a guy who's now in the major championships in 2026. He's at least going to make six figures this week with you mentioning just showing up. You're clearing over $300,000. So you have nothing to lose whatsoever if you're 25 through 30 on this list, except for maybe a couple of those guys who are trying to make some impressions for the Ryder Cup with Ariel and Chris Gotterup perhaps. But yeah, why not? Let it loose, throw everything at it at Eastlake, and try to shoot as low as humanly possible.
We've spent the last couple of weeks talking about the layers of incentives that these players have had. And to Patrick's point, almost all of those are gone for every single player in the field. They're all going to make a ton of money. Most of the Ryder Cup implications outside maybe two guys are basically done here. I think the most dangerous ones are guys that had years that were okay or maybe below average by their own standards, who are elite high-level players who have won big-time events. I make that list Ludwig Oberg, Hideki Matsuyama, Victor Hovland. Would anyone be surprised if those guys got hot over 4 days and won a 30-player field at Eastlake, a golf course that, to Patrick's point earlier, rewards tee-to-green menacy, if that is even a word? I mean, this is like those guys winning is absolutely live for this week. So yeah, that's what I'm most interested in. Can somebody steal this away from Scottie, steal this away from Rory after taking their season that was probably just okay and all of a sudden making it an amazing year?
You've got my wheels turning here. You know I'm always rooting for the story. Hideki Matsuyama bookending the season, winning our first tournament and our last tournament. There'd be some poetry in that, certainly. We are saying names, so let's say one more. I need a pick to win the Tour Championship, Rick Gehman. Who gets it done?
What am I supposed to do, Joe? It's Scottie Scheffler. It's a smaller field now, right? So you don't have to beat as many golfers. He is about 3.5 shots better than the Tour average. When you start getting over 2 strokes per round, that used to be the benchmark. It used to be the benchmark for the #1 player in the world. Luke Donald had a great comment on this years ago. When strokes game was really becoming a thing, they benchmarked 2 strokes per round as what it would take to become the #1 player in the world. And that still stands strong 20 years later. And Scottie Scheffler is almost twice as good as that mark. And the gap between him and Rory McIlroy, who's the second best player in the world, is not only apparent this past week when they played together for the first 2 rounds, but it's even more apparent on the stat sheet. I have no idea how anybody's going to beat this guy over 4 rounds because he just does not let it happen. So I think good news for Scottie, good news for the Tour. I believe he's the one who's going to be hoisting that cup on Sunday.
There's a couple scenarios that could play out, Rick. One, Wednesday night, he decides he wants some ravioli at the rental house, right? Or 2, Thursday morning, he decides he wants to drive to the golf course. Those are probably the only situations where Scottie Scheffler does not win this golf tournament. That being said, you will take him I'll take the loser, the first loser, which will be Russell Henley, in my opinion. I mean, Scottie Scheffler's partner in the President's Cup at Royal Montreal, a guy who finished third in this tournament last year with the staggered strokes. We talked about the tee to green menancy, as you said, needed around this place. That is Russell Henley to a tee. He is just so accurate off the tee, which I think gives him such an advantage with that sticky, thick Bermuda that you mentioned, an inch higher than usual. And so Henley, a Georgia boy, really playing the best golf of his career right now over these past couple of seasons. I would love for him to kind of sneak in there, somehow win this FedEx Cup. And playing great golf, I think he has a great chance to do so.
Atlanta Metro has been alerted, and the food order has already been placed. Scottie Scheffler with the inside track here, despite no starting strokes. We'll see who takes home the big check at the Tour Championship. Rick Gehman and Patrick McDonald. It's too close to the end, fellas. Gonna miss it.